I want to introduce Karma just very briefly because I don't want to take her time. Karma studied at her time. She did extensive Japanese studies, and she participated in SWY, of course. She's SWY 13, and after that, she started her journey as her business in Nipponia Idiomas from 2005. And for over 2 decades, she has dedicated herself to the dissemination of Japanese language and culture. And her contribution was just recently recognized by the General Consul in Barcelona, and she got a Merit Award recently. So we are honored to have Karma as a Swire in SWY Spain and being part of our community. And we really appreciate Karma that she offered herself to join SWY Academy and to be the first speaker. So Karma, thank you very much. We are honored to have you, and please start whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Paloma, and thank you, Amy, and thank you all of the group who are organizing this amazing project. I think it's a very interesting project, and I hope that you can join the following talks too, because I think it will be very nice to put all this knowledge together in one place and learn from each other, okay? So today what I'm going to do is, well, first of all, can you hear me well, properly? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So, first, before I begin, I would like to ask you, please, that if at any time I may be asking questions or, just putting out a debate or a discussion for us to take part in, just switch on your microphone and take part in the discussion, because I won't be able to read the chat, I'm afraid. So I think it will be easier if you just switch on the microphone and just take part in the debate, okay? So I'm aiming at giving this talk, but in a very participative way. I would like you to be in the discussion and be part of it, because I may be exposing some of the core values of Japanese society. But in our group, we are very lucky today to have several Japanese PYs. So I'm very happy that you're here today, and maybe you can help me with some of your views on the topics that we'll be discussing, because it's always very enriching to have national people from the country that I'll be talking about, right? So, and my talk is aiming at giving you some ideas on some basic values on Japanese society and Japanese culture that maybe will allow you to have an general idea of the behavior that Japanese people have nowadays and the background that this comes from, right? And this will probably give you some tips that may be helpful in future trips to Japan. Hopefully, all of you, I'm guessing, have been to Japan already, but maybe some people have joined who have never been to Japan and may be learning some new things that may be helpful when they go to Japan, when they travel, okay? So before we begin with the Japanese values, let me first, hold on, okay. Yeah, can you see the map now? Yeah, okay. Oh, sorry, too fast. Yeah, now. Okay, so just as general idea, if you can see the map that I have in my slide, just so that everyone is clear on where Japan is and how it's organized and everything. As you know, Japan lies on the Pacific Ocean, here on the right in my cursor. And then there's the Sea of Japan on the left of the country. And as you can see, Japan has several islands. Up in the north, we have Hokkaido. Then we have Honshu as the main island. And then we have Shikoku, Kyushu, and Okinawa on the way down, which is a very large archipelago down in the country. And in Honshu, the main island, we have the most important cities, Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Nara. All of these would be here and here. And as you can see, as far as the administrative organization is concerned, we have regions marked in several colors, and then we have prefectures, okay? So maybe, I don't know if you're familiar with Japanese history, but the capital of the country has been moved several times. First of all, it was Nara. Then we had some important cities like Kamakura and others. But as far as capitals are concerned, It was first Nara, then it was moved to Nagaoka-kyo, which is a little town near Kyoto, south of Kyoto, which is very interesting because when they first moved the capital to Nagaoka-kyo, they realized that they were getting floods all the time. So they decided to move the capital to Kyoto. And by the time when they moved the capital to Kyoto, it was called Heian-kyo, which means the city of peace, really, because it was in the Heian period, okay? After Kyoto was there for quite a long time, until 1868, it was moved to Tokyo. But actually, before being moved to Tokyo officially, Tokyo was called Edo, and it was already a very strong and very powerful center of government for Japan because the shogunate was there and it had all the power concentrated in the city. But in 1868 is when the capital was renamed Tokyo, which means the capital of the East, instead of Edo, which was the name that was used up to then, until then. Okay? So, hold on. Whoops. Okay, now. So as you can see, if we take a map of Japan and we spread it on a European map, just to have a general idea of how large Japan is, you can see that the Hokkaido area would be more or less in the Scandinavian countries or actually Denmark. And then the Okinawa zone would be in our Canary Islands, okay, in Spain. So that means that Japan has several climates throughout the country, and this gives a variety of vegetation and animals and temperatures and a lot of variety in the country. Right now in Japan, there are 124 million inhabitants, and this is shrinking every year. This is actually becoming a problem in Japan right now because they have a totally inverted pyramid of population where you have a large group of old people and a shrinking group of young people, which means that this is going to be a struggle as far as the economic payments that you have to do, the pensions and all this. And this is actually one of the issues that Japan has to face right now. And actually, there are several campaigns trying to promote, for example, marriages, again, because not many people are getting married nowadays, and also having children. For example, the government of Tokyo City was just launching last year an app to like put couples together, a sort of Mythic or this sort of apps that get people together so that they can become couples, just to promote the marriage and the children among people. Okay, and then data that is very interesting and not many people know is that 73% of the geography of Japan is mountainous, which means that we have many lands that are not inhabited. And so all the land that can be actually inhabited is where all the cities and towns are concentrated and many, many people live there. So that means that we have population density, which is very, very high. So we have many people living in the same place together in very tight places most of the time. And then the other part of the land is not inhabited and it's very natural, but it's accident, no geographical accidents, okay? Then we have several islands in Japan, and actually every year new islands are discovered because we have some volcanoes inside the seas creating new islands, which make it really interesting because you can see how an island is born through the cameras actually, right? And then I'm sure you know that Japan is on 4 tectonic plates. So that means that the earthquakes are very recurrent. All the time we have earthquakes. It's, well, actually, I don't know if you have any people from northern Japan here, from the Aomori areas, Hokkaido, which is right now this week, they've had several earthquakes that have to do with all these earthquakes going on in the Ring of Fire and affecting especially Venezuela in this last week. And I'm sending my best wishes to the Venezuelan people, by the way. I hope they recover fast. So anyway, we have 4 plates moving Japan all the time. So that means that Jishin, which we'll be talking about in a moment, the word for earthquakes, is happening all the time. And then also we have 80 active volcanoes. So that means 10% of the volcanoes in the world. They are concentrated, located in Japan. Actually, two of the most active ones are here in the south, in the Kyushu island. It's Aso, Mount Aso, and Mount Sakurajima near Kagoshima, in front of the town of Kagoshima, and they are constantly moving and erupting. If you're interested in seeing the activity of the volcanoes and tsunami and all these things going on, there's an app that it's called Safety Tips that you can check in real time all the earthquakes and the alerts, etc., that is happening. Only this week, there've been several alerts of several of these things, right? So that means that Japan is the land of Jishin, which is the word for earthquakes in Japanese. Did you know this word, Jishin? I think it's very important to know this word, because if you're in Japan and you see that everything begins to tremble and then people just go, Jishin, all you need to do is just act as they do, okay? Just follow the things that they'll be doing, because they are experts in this, in how to behave in front of Jishin. And you should just follow the instructions on the TV or on the radios. And then, of course, this is the land for tsunami. As you know, there was the 2011 Jishin and tsunami in the Sendai area in front of Fukushima that derived in the Fukushima crisis too. I'm sure you are all keeping images like that in your heads, but these two pictures are from this moment that they had to suffer in Japan there. And actually it was nice because we could sort of try to help from Spain in several projects, sending funds and then some messages to the affected area in Sendai through JPYs in Sendai, in the Sendai area. Because in my batch in 2000, my delegation was sent to Sendai. So we had the homestay there and we could organize several projects which were very nice to contribute to. So anyway, this is the land of Jishin, of tsunami, and also of taifu. Taifu is the word for typhoons. And although it seems that it comes from English, it doesn't. It's a word that it exists in Japanese language as such, taifu. And then also they have tsuyu. Tsuyu means the rain season. The rainy season is happening right now in Japan. It's from middle June until middle July, the first and big one, the most important one. And then at the end of September, there's also another little tsuyu, but not so strong. So if you're traveling to Japan or planning to go there, try to avoid traveling at this time of the year, because otherwise you'll really need an umbrella and you'll be dealing with rain quite a lot all the time. Okay, so why am I explaining all of these things happening? No, one of the things that also happen in Japan is that you have to share many you have to take many transportation or public transportation to work and share this space with many people that are taking these same transportations to go to work, probably for like an hour and a half every day to go and to come back. No, this commuting is very common in Japan. And you have to share this limited space with people you don't know. And one of the best things in Japan is that public transportation works very, very well. It's amazing how well it works. And actually, you can actually reach most of the country by Shinkansen, the bullet train. For example, even Sapporo, as you can see in the map, Shinkansen will be reaching there around 2030. So that's quite good because the whole country more or less will be connected. Right now, you can go all the way to Kagoshima with Shinkansen. So this is very nice, right? But you have to share the space with many, many people, okay? So why am I telling you all this? Well, because, hold on here. Because as Professor Watsuji said, the geographical environment and the climate of a region are not just passive backdrops, but active forces that shape human psychology, ethics, and civilization. So what this professor said is, he wrote a book that was called Fudo, which is called, it was translated as climate and culture in English, because we don't have a word that really reflects the whole of the concept that he created. But basically his ideas were that people who live in a country that are affected by the environment that they live in, this impact, these changes that they live around them have an impact on their psychology and on the way they think, on the way they behave, and on the way that the civilization, the society is shaped. And I think this is a very interesting idea, because this is actually one of the theories that is being defended right now in the anthropology of Japan, saying that people are really marked and impacted by the climate that they live in. No? And I think it was a very interesting book, the Fudo book written in 1935 by Watsuji professor, which was followed years later by several of his colleagues. Now, we can see this in nowadays values in Japanese society. So let's analyze them just for a second. One of the main values, I would say the most important one in Japanese society nowadays, is wa. Wa, can you tell me what wa means? Does any of you know? Well, I know that Japanese people will probably know. You can open, switch on the microphones and get in the discussion and tell me what you think about wa, or what it means to you, or any of you, not only the JPYs. Do you know this word, wa? Any of you?
Is it
No?
harmony? Harmony?
That's right, harmony. So, yeah. So most of the times, wa is translated as harmony. But let's look at the kanji. I wrote the kanji here. This is the kanji, the ideogram that defines the word wa. And if you analyze the parts of the kanji, you have rice on the left side, and then you have a kuchi, a mouth, on the right side, right? So altogether, it means to eat rice. So that means that if you're able to read rice with a group of people, you're able to keep the harmony and the good relationship with them, and keep good relations, like what it said in Japanese, nakagai, the relationship is good among these people, sharing the same rice in a common space, in a private space, right? So wa comes from this word. And actually, this is a very interesting word, wa, because it has two main meanings. One meaning is harmony, as in social peace, social cooperation, and living together in a community. But then it also has another meaning, which is very interesting, defining what is Japanese in essence. For example, you have things like wa shitsu, which means shitsu is room, and then wa is Japanese style. So Japanese style room, wa shitsu. And then you have wa yofuku, wa fuku, Japanese clothes, right? In contrast to yofuku, which is Western clothes. So referring to kimono, yukata, and the Japanese style clothes, in contrast to Western style clothes, okay? So wa, in essence, defines what is Japanese essentially. But this is one meaning of wa. But the main meaning we'll be looking at right now is the meaning of harmony, as in social cooperation and social community, and being good with your surroundings and with your environment. So what does wa mean? So wa means that you have to be in a good relationship with everything around you, with your whole surroundings and your environment. And this means being good with your family, with friends, with your coworkers, with your boss, with people you share public transportation in, even if you don't know them, even if they are strangers to you. You have to be in good terms with them, respect them. And then also you have to be in good terms with the environment and with nature, and with all these elements that you daily deal with. So, and this has to do with Shinto also, one of the main religions in Japan. Shinto also, always considers that we are surrounded by 1 million kami-sama, 1 million gods. No? It doesn't mean that it has to be 1 million exactly. It means that gods are everywhere around us, right? Gods are in the little objects that we use daily, even in my cup of tea, my books, my things around me, but also in the nature that surrounds us. Everything has a kami-sama inside them. So we need to respect the environment, right? We need to respect everything that is around us, nature, even things that come from nature that are not always good, like Jishin, tsunami that we saw before, right? And also we have to be in good terms with people around us that share space with us, or that we have a relationship with, okay? So that's the general concept of wa. And this means that we will have to respect everything around us, okay? So wa comes together with respect, okay? Being respectful towards things and people is very important to the Japanese mind and Japanese society. And I think this allows us to understand many of the behaviors that we see in Japanese people, and which I personally admire. No, I think it's many things we need to learn from Japanese people. So, if I ask you now, how do you think we can keep this wa? What kind of behaviors do you think would allow us to keep this wa among a society? You can just switch on the microphones and tell me ideas, things that may come to your mind. How can we preserve this wa? Any ideas?
We don't insist something strongly.
Yes. Okay, good. Thank you. Yes, I'm so happy you say that, because this is one of the things that I find most interesting from Japanese society, and also the way of speaking. So, as Miyuki-san said, we don't insist directly. We don't say things directly to other people. So Japanese language has many ways of saying things indirectly, in a really indirect way and really soft way, so to say, just to prevent being too direct and too aggressive towards the other people. As Miyuki-san said, if I have to express my opinion, I will not say or try not to say my opinion very strongly, because this could break the wa that I have with the other people. So Japanese language uses all the time all sorts of expressions to soften this, to soften my point of view when expressing my opinions, my feelings, and even when asking opinions from others, right? So this is one way to respect the others and to maintain, to try to protect and save this wa, no, among people. So yeah, that was very good. Thank you, Miyuki-san. Another thing is just respect in general, and also hierarchy. No, I wrote here hierarchy because from ancient times, if you look at Japanese history, you'll see that throughout time, throughout the history of Japan, hierarchy was very important in Japanese society. You had all these different classes where you had, samurai, bushis, and then you had daimyo, and then you had shogun. I don't know if you've watched the series Shogun that is being shown right now, but there you can get an idea of how the shogunates would work. The shogun was basically a general in charge of really governing the country, because they had a lot of power in their hands, right? So under the shogun, there was the daimyo, several daimyos governing regions and having power over that region, and then all the other estaments, right? All the other classes. So from ancient times in Japan, you always had to keep in mind where you were, where was your place in society, and who you were talking to. And this is something that is still kept nowadays, okay? So in Japan, you always have to bear in mind who you're talking to, and you'll be using a certain amount or level of language or respect depending on who you're talking to. It's not the same to talk to your colleagues or to a senpai, somebody who is above you and who has more experience than you, or who is more important in the company, or is older than you, okay? Because age has to do with this too. So we have all these different levels of formality in Japanese language. You have keigo and sonkeigo and all these levels of Japanese language that you need to use in every situation, always keeping in mind who you're talking to, and do it with all respect, no? Talking to that person. So this has to do with hierarchy. And of course, in order to keep this hierarchy, we need to be modest, okay? So every time we talk to a superior, a senpai or a boss, you need to show that you are in a lower level than that person, okay? So this is done through modesty. And I don't know if you've seen this in Japanese series, maybe, or books, or even in real life in Japan, if you've had the chance to talk to Japanese people there. But it's funny because sometimes you hear sentences like, for example, a husband referring to a wife as, oh, my wife is such a bad cook, her dishes are horrible, and all these things. And then they say things like, oh, my son is totally useless, he doesn't do anything, blah, blah, blah. And this can be shocking for us Westerners, no? Because this is something that you may find that they are not being respectful with them, but this actually shows modesty before an external person. So what people saying this are doing is to show respect to other people by being modest about their own family members, their wife, their son, their family. And this is not, being unrespectful towards my son, if I say that, but this is just showing that I want to be humble before the other people, okay? I want to say that my son is not so good, because then this is a way to show that I'm being modest towards my family members, okay? I don't know if you've come across any of these sentences. Have you seen that in movies or real life? Or in the ship, on the ship? I'm not sure, but maybe. No? Okay, so just keep watching series, and at some point you'll find some of these sentences which are very, very interesting, right? Okay, another way of preserving the wa, keeping this wa in mind, is by following the rules, okay? These are very important in Japan, these rules, the kata, what is known as kata. So everything in Japan has a way of doing things. So all the arts like sado or chado, which is the tear ceremony art, ikebana, or even like a sports, or if you do like judo, anything has to follow a series of kata, of rules that really mark the way to do things. And this is very important in a country that needs to be organized and everything needs to be planned. And I think this is one of the best things about Japan, right? If you come to, well, you saw this from the ship already. The planning in the ship was very well organized. Every minute was so organized and everything was according to plan. And this is something that can be followed and is successful because it has been following the kata, no? The way of doing things. And this is applied to anything in life in general in Japan. So it is very important in Japan to follow the rules and not break the rules, okay? And this is a way of preserving the wa also. And then there's this expression I wrote here, shoganai or shikataganai, which is the same meaning more or less. These two expressions show the idea of shoganai is something like, well, that's life. You know, that's the way that things are. Let's accept them as they are. C'est la vie in French. There's nothing we can do about it. Things happen and we cannot change them. So what's the point in protesting or being angry against nature if there's a jishin, or if something happens and cannot be, and anything cannot be done about it, right? So this acceptance is also part of the Japanese character. And I think this shows, for example, in case of jishin or tsunami, especially the one in 2011, I think Japan was an example of good behavior in this sense, no? In the sense of accepting, being strong, you know, fighting together to survive and to just keep going. And this, I think, has to do directly from the fact that we talked about before of having all these phenomena, the jishin, tsunami, and all these threats going on in Japan all the time. You have to accept nature and its manifestation as they come, and then just keep going. Life will go on, we'll go through it, and we'll just have to strive and go through these problems, right? And I think this is something that shows a lesson to learn, no? From Western countries, I think. Okay, another group of principles that I think are very interesting to talk about within Japanese society is the concept of uchi, soto, and then honne and tatemae. I'm going to explain them together because they have to do with each other. So uchi means inside, and soto means outside, no? So this is something like your inner circle, the circle of people that you are most confident with, or you trust, or you can share what you feel and what you think with. And then soto are people outside this circle. And these are people that you don't necessarily have to share everything with, okay? They can be co-workers or strangers or even friends, but you're not so close to them. And you can just keep them out of certain things, right? So this is uchi and soto. And then honne is what you really feel and what you think inside yourself. And tatemae is what you show towards the society, okay? So the thing is, you would share honne with your uchi, okay? You share honne, you share what you think and what you really feel with people inside your circle, that you're closest with, and then you show tattemae to the outer people, the people out of the circle, which is soto, okay? So that means that society will expect you to be expressing tattemae towards them, and certain behaviors are not expected to be shared with people, like people you work, co-workers, or friends that you're not so close with, or family members that you don't see that much, and people like that, okay? Yeah, do you understand the difference between uchi, soto, honne, tattemae, which are very interesting concepts? And have you seen, maybe you've seen the movie or you've read the book that I have here. Have you seen the movie or read the book Stupeur et Tremblement? That's in French, but in English, I think it was Fear and Trembles, I think it was. There's a movie right now based on this book. Do you know this author, Amelie Nothomb? Yeah?
Yes.
Have any of you? Yes? Okay, very
Yeah.
interesting author, right, Paloma? So she's a Belgium author, and she was born in Kobe, and her dad was an ambassador of Belgium in Japan, in Kobe. So she spent the first 6 years in her life in Kobe. And it's very interesting what she writes about Japan, because she always has this view of being a Westerner, but also feeling partly Japanese. And she has a very interesting thought about life in Japan that is reflected on many of her books on Japan. So one of the most famous books was this one. It was written in 1999, Stupeur et Tremblement, and this is her experience in a Japanese company, okay, as a woman and as a foreigner, which is quite interesting, because she goes through many situations that could be shocking for Westerners. And if you see the movie or you watch or you read the book, you can see that there's one of the situations where her superior, one of her bosses, is being scolded at publicly in front of the department in a really rough way, really badly way. So the boss comes in and he just starts yelling at her, and she just, keeps quiet, listening to all this yelling. And of course, it's a very uncomfortable situation, but she stays there and she manages to, go through it. And then she just runs to the toilet. And what happens is that Amelie runs to the toilet, thinking in the Western point of view that she should go there and comfort her, right? Check on her and see if she's okay, okay? And she walks into the bathroom and she sees her crying. And then she just goes nuts. She goes crazy and she is totally angry to Amelie. And Amelie is puzzled and she doesn't understand what's going on, right? Because she just came to the toilet to try to comfort her, okay? So as she walks out of the toilet, she comes across a Japanese co-worker, and the Japanese co-worker explains to her, look, this is something that you should have not done. Japanese people, when they cry, they want to be by themselves. They want to not be seen crying, especially in a working place, in a kaisha, in a company, right? So I know that your intention was very good and you wanted to comfort her, but this is something that she was keeping to be doing in a private setting without being seen. And I think this is a very interesting scene, trying to that really conveys the idea of the different expression of honne and tattemae as far as socially expressed, no, in a company setting, and in the book and in the show, in the movie, is very well reflected, as I explained, no, the way that Japanese people want to keep private things private, right? Have you seen any situations like this where you can think of an example of honne and tattemae around you? No? Any of you? No, but you understand the concept, right? The honne is what you express in the uchi, tattemae is what you express outside of your circle, yeah? Okay. Okay, then let's keep going with the other concepts. Then in Japan, there's a very interesting concept, and it's called mottainai. Mottainai is something like what a waste, no? What a waste of things. This should not be wasted. So anything that can be used for something else, if there's food leftovers or if there's a piece of cloth that cannot be used anymore, where they're trying all the time to make good use of the pieces left or the things that can be left from this used item and give it a second life, so to say. Okay, so this is something that we should keep in mind, not to waste anything and to feel that everything is precious and should be kept and protected as much as possible. Okay, and we should reuse things and we should use all the things that would go as waste. We should use them as much as possible. So this is something that we should also keep in mind. Okay, another concept that I think is very interesting in Japanese society is amae. Amae was a concept created by this author, Takeo Doi, in this book, The Anatomy of Dependence. This was written quite a long time ago. I think it was in the 50s, I think. And he's a professor, a psychologist, and he was analyzing the way that Japanese society usually acts as a collective, right? So depending on each other. And where this word comes from is very interesting, because if you look at the word amae, amae comes from amai, and amai is sweet in Japanese. So it's the adjective sweet. And this comes from the idea, he says, Professor Takeo Doi says, it comes from the idea of a mother and a child when they are born. You know that there's this psychology term, or a term used in psychology, that is called imprinting, which means the bond that is being created when a child is born with her mother especially, but also with other family members. And this dependence of the baby upon the mother and the mother upon the baby, because the mother needs the baby after this imprinting, is what is the base of the word amae, which means depending on each other, which means that you know that if you have a problem, the society will try to help you solve this problem. And you can depend on society. You can depend on other members of the society, of the collective, in order to go through a problem or to solve or to help you solve a problem. This is a really interesting term created by Takeo Doi. And it actually has reflections on things we see nowadays on the streets in Japan. Because I don't know if you've seen that, I'm sure you have, but like the picture I put up here on the right, in Japan, it's very common to see little kids, only 5-6-year-old, traveling by themselves to go to school, right? They just take the, ikoka, the traveling cart, and they just pass through the densha, the trains, and they just travel to school. And this is so common, and people feel completely safe doing this. Parents just send kids to school like that, because they know that if they have a problem, they can rely on society, and society will be helping these little kids. And this happens all the time. So if a kid gets lost or loses his card or whatever problem he may have, he knows that he can just come up to an adult, anybody, and ask for help, and he will be helped. And this also, it's very good, because this means that it's a very safe society also, a very safe culture, where we can just, walk everywhere, and we, most of the times, I think all of the times, we will not be robbed or threat in any way, because there's this general concept of I have to be good with other people and help them, and also they'll help me if I have a problem. No? And I think this shows all this sense of collectivity that is so present in so many manifestations of Japanese culture and society. Okay, I don't know if we have in the group any soccer lovers right now watching the World Cup. I'm sure you do. Yes. By the way, Japan is doing great. Okay, there's one there. Okay, good.
We are all here.
Sorry, what's that? I couldn't hear you. Can you say that again?
We are here all soccer lovers, football.
Oh, nice. Okay. Wow. Lovely. Okay. And you're following all the games, right? I'm guessing. Okay. So if you're following the World Cup, which I think Samurai Blue are doing great, no? Doing a great job as always lately. I'm sure you've seen lots and lots of Japanese, the Samurai Blue fans picking up all the trashes and things after each game in the football in the soccer field, right? And some of them have been interviewed by Western media, and they keep saying all the time things like, "Well, this is part of our culture, no? It's just a show of respect towards things." And towards people in the stadium and towards our team. And this is something that really has to do with what I explained before, no? The wa. This is also keeping a wa. This is also keeping your environment, the things around you, the people around you, clean, but not all, only clean, but being respectful towards them, right? And this is another manifestation of this concept, right? Okay, so apart from these values in Japanese society, if we look at the other values that we can find, especially in work, at work, in a company, or a kaisha environment. Kaisha means a company in Japanese. You can see things like the word omotenashi. Omotenashi is often translated as, do you know? Do any of you know? No? It's often called or translated as Japanese hospitality, okay? But it means Japanese hospitality that goes beyond what we think is hospitality in Western countries. In Japan, it means trying to respond to the demands or the needs that you may have, sometimes even before you realize, okay? So an example of this is that if you go to have a drink with your colleagues or friends in Japan, for example, you go to a izakaya, to a bar, or to a cafeteria, and then people will be watching your glass and seeing if you need to be poured more beer or more sake or whatever you're drinking, okay? So part of the Japanese culture, as we'll see afterwards, is when you go drinking, you don't serve yourself. You wait for somebody to serve you the drink. And then, of course, you do the same thing to them. So you have to be watching their glasses or their cups and also filling in beer or, sake as they run out of beer, right? So this is part of the omotenashi and also of the concept of always being in service, giving a good service, an excellent service to clients in any kaisha, in any company. So even if you go to like department stores, as you can see in the picture here, there'll be these beautifully dressed ladies bowing you as you walk in, saying yokoso, welcoming you to the center, and then like trying to give their best all the time to give you a good service. And this applies to anything in Japan, like restaurants and hotels and ryokans and
Karma,
department stores. Sorry, what's that?
Karma, one
Yeah.
question. So
Yes.
is it considered bad manners to pour the drink yourself?
Well, we'll talk about this later, Paloma, because I have
Okay.
a slide on drinking and eating in Japan. If you don't
Okay.
mind waiting a little bit
Yeah,
longer,
no
I think it's
problem.
very interesting that we can talk about this. But yeah, let's talk about this later if you don't mind, because we'll be explaining that. It's partly so, but we'll see that. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just finish this slide and then we'll move to the other one. So as far as the company related, work related concepts, we also have this beautiful expression of gambarimasho. And this applies to anything in Japanese society, not only work, but also like teamwork, as far as the sports and several places or situations. Gambarimasho means, come on, we can do it. With effort, we can try our best and we'll manage. We'll go through it and we can do it. Okay, so gambarimasho is like, gambarimasho. And I'm sure you've heard it on the ship even because it's been used all the time with, different expressions like gambate kudasai or gambarimasu, I'll try my best, and things like that. And this also has to do with the collective sense that we were talking about, the meaning of making an effort collectively in order to pursue a goal, no? To reach a goal that we have as a group. And this is something that is very common in Japan. And then also we have gaman. Gaman shimasu or gaman suru means being patient, okay? So in Japan, from childhood throughout adulthood, it's always been insisted on to be cultivating, so to say, the gaman, to being patient, because they know that they'll have to be waiting all the time. They'll have to endure some really struggling processes in learning some things. If you learn an instrument, or you learn an art, a tea ceremony, or you learn judo or karate, or all these things, you'll have to go through a process that requires gaman. So this is something that is being educated from the school times, okay? And people, just when they are little kids, they really work on this. And I think they manage so well. I was really surprised. I'm going to explain a little happening that I had when I was living in Japan. I was living in Japan, and then I was offered a little job for a few days as well, a sort of English teacher in a Christmas camp, okay, so for little kids. So what we would do is we would go there and then play with them in English and do all sorts of things. So on the way there, we got on a bus with a group of like 50 little boys aged like 6 or 7. And when we got to the place where we were going to stay, after a long ride, it was like 2 hours and a half, the main teacher said, okay, now you have to wait here, and we need to wait for the person in charge to come here. And, you know, I was really surprised because all these little kids were just staying there, sitting in the bus quietly after 2 hours and a half of a bus ride. And I was thinking, you know, all the time in my mind, I was like, if this was Spain, they would just go crazy. You know, if they had to wait any more minutes after 2 hours and a half of a bus ride, they would just move and be asking and be really impatient to get off the bus. But this was not the case in Japan. And they were really educated to gaman suru, no? To be patient and to wait until the last minute that they were required to. And I think this is something that is admiring, no? From Japanese society. Another expression is otsukare-sama. Otsukare-sama is something like, thank you for your effort. And this is said all the time, like at the end of a meeting, at the end of a project, even at the beginning of a project also. It's a way of showing respect towards the other people, and also of keeping wa, right? Because what you're saying is, I'm appreciating the effort that you're doing, and I will do my best also to contribute to this effort that you're doing. So what you say is, when people say otsukare-sama, you say otsukare-sama back, meaning I also appreciate your efforts that you're doing also, right? So this is all used in shigoto and kaisha. Kaisha means company, and shigoto means work in general. And shigoto in Japan is very, very important in Japanese life. Although things I think are changing, and there's some really interesting literature on that, saying that comparing to the past in the Japanese history, what people feel about the kaisha, about the company, is changing, in the sense that usually in the past, people would enter a company and they would stay in that same company throughout life, okay, until they just would retire from that company. And then they would just come up the hierarchy of the company and learn from each department, and then just retire from there. So changing companies was not seen as something that would be very positive in your CV, right? So but this has been changing in the last years, and people are beginning to change from one company to the other, and seeing that it's not so bad to change companies, because you know you can always learn from a different field or from a different position. And of course, the meaning of entering a company has changed too, especially for women. In the past, women would enter the company, and then when they would reach a certain age, which was usually around 28, 30, this was the ideal age for getting married. Okay, so then they would get married, quit the job, and stay at home. So they were stay-at-home moms while the husband was working at the company. But this has been changing in the last years too, because women have begun to realize that maybe they don't want to get married. And this is one of the problems that I told you before, right? That people are reconsidering marriage and not necessarily thinking that they will get married because society is expecting them to do so. They have other priorities. They saw that they can live by their own. Actually, in Japan, in the last years, most of the people, or there are many, many people in Japan, I can't remember the percentage, but it was very high, of people living by themselves in cities especially, no? Because that's the situation. People who work and who live by themselves and who don't want to get a compromise or don't want to change things. They just want to keep going like that. Have you read the book 24 Hours Store Lady? I think it was in English. No? That's a very interesting book to read about the role of women expected by society in Japan, and how the main character in the book decides to stay working at a combini. A combini is a convenience store open 24 hours a day. And usually it's a kind of work or a kind of job that is considered as a part-time or a temporary job until you find a more serious one, right? So this is the type of job that maybe like high school or university students have, but not people forever in life, right? But she decides to stay in the combini because she doesn't want to change to another lifestyle, no? To another type of living and, you know, getting married and having children and all this. So you can read the book and think about this, maybe. Okay, and then as far as social problems that we have in Japan concerning work, we have karoshi. Does anybody know what karoshi is? Yeah?
No?
No? So karoshi means dying from excess work, from working too much, from overworking. And there are some cases in Japan, sadly, you know, people are doing lots of extra hours. The way of thinking is that you cannot leave work if your superior, your senpai, or your the person above you has not left the office, which means that you have to stay and do many, many hours, extra hours, right? So some of them end up dying because of this. And this has been a problem in the last years, trying to be reversed and trying to, you know, there have been several laws passed trying to be more strict on the hours that workers really need to do. But we'll see the effects of these laws in the coming years, because so far not many things have changed in this sense. And then we have the other problem of hikikomori. I'm sure you've heard of this, hikikomori, yeah? Okay, so this is the case of, as you see in the picture, mainly guys, because most of the times they are boys or young people, but especially males, who decide to leave everything, to leave work, to leave the studies, and to just stay at home in a room. And their parents usually provide them with food, and they take their dirty clothes, and they just keep themselves inside one of the rooms in the house, and they just, you know, play video games, and they look at the internet and all this. And this, of course, has been a problem. And it's also a problem that is often being hidden because it's a taboo. It's something that people or parents are not proud of, and so they don't even tell like close family members or neighbors. There can be a hikikomori there, but nobody knows, right? So the Japanese government lately, in the last years, have launched several campaigns in order to try to make this hikikomori go back to the society through sending psychologists in these houses and beginning to little by little talk to them and try to talk them back to society. And in some cases this has worked, and they've gone back to society and work again. And even in some cases, which is interesting, they have even married their psychologists who were trying to keep them out of the house. So some really successful cases. But in general, it's still a problem in Japanese society. And this has to do, of course, with all this pressure that they are being put upon, no? All this pressure at work and all this pressure at school to get certain grades, to be able to enter certain schools that will allow you to go to certain universities, to go to certain caixa, to certain companies, because that's the way it works. If you go to certain centers, you know that your path is determined to go to that company, that type of company, right? And not everyone is able to cope with this pressure and this stress. So that's why hikikomori happen there, okay? So in general, I wrote here a sort of kotowaza, a phrase that is derukui wa utareru, which means the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. This is actually a saying that comes from China. In Chinese, there's exactly the same kotowaza. I don't know it in Chinese, but it's the same meaning. And what it means is that society expects all Japanese members of this society to be the same, to be equal, and to treat each other as being uniformed, you know? Not to. So the thing is, you don't need to stand out, because if you stand out, it means that probably you're being selfish because you're trying to get the attention of people in order to get something or to pursue some kind of aim or goal that you're thinking about. But this is not what society expects you to do. What society expects you to do is to follow the path that everyone is following, be the same as your coworkers and the same as your the students, your friends in class, and not standing out in order to follow all the rules that society are expecting you to comply with. Okay, so this is mainly the idea of all these words and concepts. Okay, so just to give you examples of all these concepts that I've been explaining, I put here a couple of images to give you an idea about, for example, hierarchy. You know? As I was telling you, in the past in Japan, we had all this really established social pyramid where we had the emperor and then the shogun, and the shogun with the daimyos, and then the samurai below them, and then the larger class of peasants and artisans, and at the very bottom, the people in commerce, in business, because, well, it says here, no, the lower class, because they produced nothing on their own with their hands, so they were considered the lower classes in society. And this was in the past, but nowadays in daily situations and daily places like a taxi or a car or even an elevator, you can always see that this hierarchy is also being kept. There's always a kamisa, a top place, and there's always a shimoza, which means a down place, a lower rank place. So for example, let me explain a couple of them. If you go to a meeting and it's a Japanese style room, washitsu, as I was saying before, in washitsu, there's tokonoma. Tokonoma is the place where you hang the kakejiku, maybe a sumie or a drawing. It's very beautifully made there, and it's the most important place within the room, right? So the most important person in the group should sit in front of the tokonoma, because that's what hierarchy is expecting this person to do. And the others will sit around them, okay? But if this is a Western style room, the main sofa on this side will be occupied by the person in a higher rank within the group, okay? And then in cars, it depends on whether it's a taxi or whether it is a company car or a private car or a rental car also. So if you ride with a group of colleagues in a taxi, the person which is more important in the group will be traveling behind the pilot of the taxi. But if it's a company car, he will be traveling in the front seat next to the person driving the car, okay? And in an elevator, the person next to the buttons that need to be pressed are the lower rank person. And the person who is more important in the group will be back and in the farthest place from the button, from the place where the buttons are to be pressed, okay? So even nowadays, you can see that this type of behaviors and this certain rules that need to be observed in companies and in dealing with people come from this hierarchy and need to be respected. This is very important, for example, in doing business with Japanese people. Sometimes here in Nipponia, we teach some of these rules to companies who trade with Japan in order for them to be prepared when they travel to Japan and to try to be as respectful as possible with Japanese companies, right? So these are things that need to be kept in mind all the time, because it's so easy to be wrong about them, right? Okay, and then just a general rule of thumbs that you need to keep in mind when visiting Japan, and I'm sure you know some of them or you've seen some of them, things that you should keep in mind when visiting Japan. No food on trains, except for Shinkansen. In Shinkansen, you can eat. No littering, and this is becoming a really, really bad problem, really huge problem in Japan right now. I've never seen so much trash in my life as in the toilets in Fushimi Inari last year. It was awful. It made me so sad because they were like this picture that I put up here. Lots and lots of tourists, because I know that they were tourists. Japanese people would never do that. They were trashing everywhere, you know, the toilets and the premises of the temple. And this is so unrespectful for Japan. So please don't do that, and try to always take with you whatever trash you produce back home, back to your hotel, or back to the station where there are trash bins, and you can just throw them there, okay? Another thing that is really awful is damaging nature, of course. Now there's been this really sad and bad fashion of engraving your name in bamboo sticks, in take, in Arashiyama or other places. And this just makes me so sad to see this, because this is awful. This is really, really unrespectful, not only towards nature, but towards Shinto, because as I said before, nature is part of the Shinto, no? The kami-sama are in these bamboos. So you have to be respectful of these elements, these plants, these trees in nature, and of anything that is surrounding you. And this is something that is becoming a problem in the last years with all this boom of tourism in Japan. And actually some laws are being passed on this. I think some parts in Japan, some local governments are trying to get tickets to tourists who are doing this, and hopefully they'll succeed in trying to fix this problem. Then no eating or smoking while eating. This is also out of respect towards people who are behind you or in front of you. And then one rule that I really enjoy when I travel to Japan is no talking on public transportation. I come from a country where we are really loud, so I really appreciate it when you travel to Japanese transportation system and everyone is just quiet and respectful, and they would never pick up a phone and answer to a call. So if they get called on the phone, on the keitai, all they say is through a written message, they say, I cannot talk now because I'm on the train, I'll talk to you later. And I think this is a very nice way of respecting people around you and keeping this wa when traveling. Have you seen this when traveling in Japan? These quiet trains? I'm sure you've saw it.
Yes.
Yeah, all the time, right? Yeah, I think it's nice. It's so nice. Okay, another problem is taking pictures of geisha, especially, but people in general in Japan. There are some really awful videos going on in several websites where there are tourists following geishas really up close and trying to get the best picture really close to their faces. And this is something that is really, really rude in Japanese culture, especially for geishas, because geishas are very respected and very, people who have worked very, very hard to become a geisha. And they should not be treated as, actresses or people that are there just for your picture to hang in Instagram. This is not the reason why they are there. They are working, and we should always keep in mind that they are working, and we need to be respectful towards them walking down the streets going to work, right? And this is also a problem that has caused, for example, the Kyoto government, the actual mayor of Kyoto, the Kyoto district, one of the policies that he had in his campaign in the last elections was to close several streets in the Gion district in order to avoid this kind of behavior from tourists, right? And he succeeded, and he's now the mayor. So some of the streets down in Gion are closed to prevent this, and we should really respect that. Then something that is really rude is blowing your nose in public. And this is something that we Westerners do all the time here, no? We should not do that in Japan. If you need to, just go to the toilet and, be as discreet as possible. Then no tippings at restaurants. You should not give tips because it could be considered rude, because the prices that are stated in the menu are the prices that the owner of the place considers that needs to be paid. If you paid more, it means that you consider that this is not the price that should be written there, and this can become a respectful manner without you knowing. So if you try to tip in Japan, it could happen that people, the waiters and the waitresses, would come out of the restaurant following you, going all the way down the street to give you your money back, because tips are not expected there. Okay, then of course the lines are very important to be respected all the time. It's really, really rude if a tourist comes there and skips the line and try to get faster inside a train or a bus. This is really rude. And then a funny rule that really shocks us Westerners is that it is okay to slurp noodles. And this is something that we find really hard. Have you tried to slurp noodles in Japan or in your country? Maybe not in your country, not the best idea, but in Japan you can do that. I think it's very difficult. I'm not good at this, but this is something that they are really, really good at, and they can just eat a cup of noodles in a minute by slurping it and slurping them, and then being loud is not a problem at all. It's actually showing that you're enjoying the dish. Okay, and then of course Japanese expressions are really appreciated, so I would really recommend you to take a phrase book and learn some words before traveling to Japan or being in touch with Japanese people. Especially the most important one is domo arigatou gozaimasu, always thanking them for all this for all their efforts in trying to treat you well. And this is something that is always expected in Japan. Okay, and as you know, probably in Japan, it's very important to give business cards, meshi, in the right way. In Western countries, we don't usually use meshi that much. Maybe in business we do, but not as a general rule. And in Japan, it's always very important to carry your own meshi and to give it in the right way, with 2 fingers and with the card facing the person who will be receiving this card. And also trying to show humbleness, modesty, as I said before, because this is a way of showing that you keep in mind the hierarchy of the situation. For example, I have a picture here of me receiving the ambassador of Japan in Spain, who visited my city, Girona. This is the mayor of Girona. And I was exchanging meshi with him. And of course, he's in a much higher rank than me. So what I try to do is you give the card, but then you make your card go lower than the card that you receive from him, okay? And this is a way of showing this respect towards somebody who is above you. And for example, I asked the town mayor to have his meshi ready. And of course, we are in Spain, so he forgot. And I was just going crazy because this is really rude in Japan to, for a mayor to not exchange meshi with him. But, that's life, shoganai. So I just keep entertaining him and trying my best not to feel uncomfortable in this situation. But this is something that you should always keep in mind, to have meshi with you. Then in Japan, you know that in general, there's no like direct contact, physical contact with people. So instead of, kissing or hugging or even like shaking hands, the traditional way of saluting or saying hi to people is by bowing, by oji, no? By doing all these sorts of respectful bows that, by the way, are taught at school from childhood throughout you know, being a teenage, they're always practicing all these different grades of Eshaku, Keide, Saikeide, all these different grades of Ojigi, depending on the situation and on the person that you have in front of you, because you'll bow more or less depending on this situation and on the importance of people whom you have to bow to. And so be ready to bow all the time and, you know, just do as they do, right? Then another thing that we don't usually have in Western countries is the hanko, the seal. The seal is something that is used in Japan instead of your signature. So in Western countries, we usually sign our names or our initials, and that's it. But in Japan, there are all these official seals that have to be issued by a Japanese government or a Japanese office with an official certificate saying that this hanko belongs to you. And then with this hanko, you can go to banks or to any kind of contract that you have to sign, and you can sign all sorts of documents with this hanko. And by the way, if you visit Japan, and you want to have your own hanko, you can just do a fake one, so to say, and just go up to a paper store and they can make your own hanko with the design that you like the most in maybe an hour or so. This is a good souvenir to take from Japan. Okay. Okay, and then Japan, of course, is the the culture of omiyage, no? Of giving souvenirs, bringing presents, and presents are very important. It's an important part of Japanese society. And also of the, it's very important to keep in mind the culture of okaeshi. Okaeshi means giving back what you receive. So every time a person does a favor to you or does something or helps you in any sort of way, you're supposed to be giving them back some sort of you know, present back or action back to them, showing appreciation for the effort that they have done for you. Okay. So in Japan, for example, every time a worker is sent to another prefecture for work, he is expected to be back in office with a omiyage, probably food from that region, for his co-workers in his area. And then when you travel to Japan, I'm sure you've seen this in Japanese stations, train stations. There are lots and lots of okashi, of Japanese sweets or cookies or, you know, this sort of sweet stuff that you can buy at the station and then bring back to the office. And it would be considered to be rude not to do so, no? To bring some souvenir back, showing that you've thought about your coworkers when you were away. And then sometimes presents are wrapped in furoshiki. Furoshiki is this sort of cloth that shows a real art of wrapping in all sorts of different styles and wrapping techniques. The way of wrapping in Japan is very important. Sometimes it's more important the way that a present is wrapped and the external view of the present than the contents of this present. It's very important that it has a nice wrapping and that it is not wrinkled or damaged. So always make sure that your presents are well wrapped. And also every time you visit a Japanese home, it's very important to bring a present. Sometimes it's like a okashi, like sweets, or sometimes a wine or liquor or these kind of things. This is very important to enter a Japanese home, which is an intimate place, right? Okay, and then now we'll come to what Paloma was asking about, you know, the tradition of going to have drinks with your coworkers or with friends. So in Japan, after work, which is usually about 5 or 6 in the evening, if you have extra hours, it can be later, of course. It's very usual for workers to tell other workers, come on, let's go to have a drink at izakaya. Izakaya is a tavern or a night cafeteria, so to say, where you go drinking and you can have like little tapas of you know, side dishes to eat while you're drinking. And these are known as nomikai. So nomikai comes from nomimas, which is to drink, and kai, which is a meeting. So it's a meeting to drink, literally. And then from this nomikai comes a Japanglish word created, which is nominication. So it is the communication that comes out of drinking together. And this is very important in Japan. And some businesses, some contracts are signed during nominication, not inside the offices, but outside the offices, in izakaya, or even like playing golf, or doing another activity like karaoke and things like this. And why is that? This is because in Japanese business, it is considered the normal way to proceed to first build up a relationship among companies, among the kaisha. So first you have to know about the company that you're wanting to deal with. And then once you get to know them and you know that they can be trusted and they know you and they know the way you are and the way you work, then you can finally sign contracts and close businesses. And this is something that can be really shocking for us Westerners, because we can be too direct sometimes. No, you can be in the office in Japan and then just go, okay, so we agree, so let's just sign the contract. That's it. We don't need any more time, right? And this is something that can be seen as very, very direct and very aggressive towards Japanese people. And as Miyuki-san was saying before, this would really break the wa in business, in a business-related environment. So you need to follow the process, the natural process and the natural rhythm of things in business in Japan, and go with the flow. So, you have a first meeting, and then you're being asked to go to a nomikai, and then the nomination begins, and then probably nothing will happen until the following day. And on the following day, they'll invite you to go golf with them. And a week has passed, and Westerners just are about to go crazy because no deal has been signed yet. But at the end of the second day golfing, maybe the contract will be signed. So this is something that you need to keep in mind. There's a rhythm of things that are natural being done this way in Japan, and you have to go with it. You have to go with the flow and respect this rhythm of doing business in Japan. And this applies not only in business, but nomination also happens among friends, and even in coworkers too. This is I find it really interesting, because if you work drinking with coworkers, or even with your boss, you are allowed to tell them things that you want to complain about during this nomikai. Okay, so you can tell your boss, oh, come on, you were so hard on me today, asking me for this project and only giving me 2 hours to prepare for it. You were so bad, you're such an awful guy, blah, blah, blah. You can tell them this, okay? But then on the following morning, after nomikai, you'll just act as if no nomikai existed the night before. And this is really shocking, because you go to office and there's no way you can even mention last night's happenings at the izakaya. This is something that happened there, was there. People got information from that meeting, but this is not something that you can talk about on the following day at the office, okay? So things can be said at the izakaya, but then, of course, on the next day, you have to be respectful, the same way as before, with your coworkers and your boss, and you have to talk formally and speak formally and never refer to the night before, right? So if you go to an izakaya with friends also, and now I'll answer Paloma's question before, you're supposed to pour a drink to the other friends. And you were asking, is it considered rude? Well, among friends, I don't know what Japanese people would answer to that. I would like to answer to listen to your answers here. What do you think? Yeah, switch on your microphones and try to answer to Paloma and see. No? Somebody?
Oh, I'm sorry. What was the question again? I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so the question, Paloma was asking, is it rude to pour yourself a drink in Japan instead of waiting for a friend to pour it to your glass?
Oh, okay. Well, in my opinion, it's not rude at all. You can just pour your drink to your glass. But if somebody offer to pour a drink for you, I think it's better to accept it. That'd be
Yes.
great.
And especially, thank you. sorry, can't see your name here. Is it?
Oh, I'm Kentaro.
Kentaro-san, sumimasen. Vale, okay, Kentaro-san, thank you so much. Yeah, so basically, oh, and somebody else wanted to talk. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, this is Zainab. So I have this. I have a Japanese friend. She's living in Bahrain, but she is married to an American guy. And when she was telling me why the reason that she didn't like staying in Japan, because part of the culture was to like she has to pour the drink for her manager, and she didn't like that. She felt like that's her being forced to do something that feels not respectful for her.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Wow. Yeah, that's a good, very nice reflection. Well, I was going to complement what you said before. I think that, for example, if you're drinking with your boss, you would be expected maybe to pour him a drink, right? But it's different with friends, right? And as you were saying before, yeah, if it was her boss, then she would probably have been expected to do so, right? I don't know if you have any more thoughts on that. Anybody else?
Me, you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
go ahead.
Yes, I agree. It's in my generation, how can I say? Yeah, we would do that. Try to pour the sake or beer to others. But if we are close friends, we do by themselves. But with boss and some kind of not so close friend, we would do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's the idea. Yeah, Paloma. So more or less, now we know how to drink with friends in Japan. Right? Okay, good. Okay, and I think it's quite common to drink a lot in Japan. I mean, when you work and when you're with your coworkers, it's quite often that you're being asked to go to a izakaya and have a drink after work. This is quite common. And then, of course, there are situations like the image is down the image down here on the right, where you overdrink and you're all, passing out in the drains. And this should not be done because this is not something that is nice for the people sharing the densha, the drains with you. This should be avoided. But of course, this happened. But at the same time, I have to say that Japan is a very safe country. And even if you are by yourself at night, in a dark street and there's people who have been drinking, most of the times they don't bother you or say anything. So this gives you a really good sense of safety in Japan, right? Okay, and then let's move to a table, right? What do we do in Japan when we eat? There are certain things that need to be avoided with hashi, with the chopsticks. Some of these things are here, described here. Let me just explain a couple of them that I think are very interesting. The hotokebashi, the one down on the left. You cannot leave your chopsticks inside a bowl full of rice because this is something that happens in rituals that have to do with dead people, right? So when you pay respect to a dead family member, for example, and you go to his graveyard and you bring food. Sometimes you bring like a beer or things that he liked when he was alive, okashi, a box of chocolate, or I mean cookies or sweet things. You can always bring also rice and leave it there, and then you just put the hashi, the chopsticks, like this. So this is something that is seen in graveyards or in ritual spaces. And if you do that at restaurants, it's really shocking for Japanese people. So try to avoid doing this. And then the same thing would apply to hashi watashi, passing food from a pair of chopsticks to another one to let another person try your food, your dish. This should also be avoided because this is what you do in a ritual in Buddhist cremation. After cremation, all the bones of the cremated people are left on the table, and then the close family members come into the room, the cremation room, and they pass around the bones of the dead people in this way, from a hashi to a special pair of hashi to the other one, right? So if you do this in a restaurant, it's really shocking too. So this is something that you should be avoiding, okay? And of course, there are many, many rules on that, but just I'm just giving you the main ones, and you can have a look at the others. It's quite difficult sometimes to, I mean, it's quite easy to be wrong with hashi, right? So basically, what you need to keep in mind is that hashi is something that should be used to bring food from the bowl straight to your mouth. So anything else that implies the hashi, like doing all sorts of movements and, you know, passing things around, this should be avoided. I come from a country where we gesticulate a lot. I'm always moving my hands and my arms, right? So in general, in Japan, this is not done, but especially when you have a pair of hashi, of chopsticks in your hands. You should not be talking and be pointing at things with your hashi, like saying, yeah, I went there and then I turn around and all these things. These are things that should be avoided at all times, if possible. Okay, and then final rules for staying at several, at different types of hotels that you can find in Japan. If you stay in a ryokan, do you know what a ryokan is in Japan? I'm sure you do, yeah? Okay, so it's a Japanese style hotel where you'll find tatami, and then you'll probably sleep on a futon, and they'll have onsen, the public baths. It's very nice to stay at a ryokan. Sometimes they are expensive, but it's really worth staying at least one night there. When you visit a ryokan, you'll probably leave your leave your shoes at the entrance of the ryokan, and then use the slippers to walk around the ryokan. And you'll also probably put on a yukata, a sort of kimono that is lighter, and you can use to walk around the hotel and even outside the hotel in an onsen town. It's often used too. Then you have, well, several types of hotels in Japan. Business hoteru are the cheapest type of hotels. They are used all the time by business people. They are small rooms. They have small rooms, but they are very cheap and very convenient for us to spend several nights in Japan in a cheaper way than a ryokan. And then, of course, you have this unique form of staying at a hotel, which is the capsule hoteru, the capsule hotels. If you're not claustrophobic, you can try the experience. If you are, I wouldn't recommend it, but they are quite comfortable. They have everything. They have air conditioning and all sorts of things. And then when visiting a Japanese house, of course, always keep in mind to take your shoes off, and not only at hotels or Japanese homes, but also you'll have to take your shoes off in Japan quite often at castles and temples and even restaurants. Some of them, they may require you to leave the shoes at the entrance and just go barefoot or use the slippers. And sometimes this is to prevent tatami or wooden floor from being damaged. So you should always respect that. And if you visit a Japanese home, you'll probably see a butsudan, which is this type of little altar, a Buddhist altar, where you pay respect towards the deceased members of the family you're visiting. No? For example, when I lived in Japan, I spent many months in a homestay in a Japanese family, and my Japanese father unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. So when I visited Japan this last time, I went to see my okasan, my Japanese mother. And the first thing that she did when I brought her a box of cookies is go to the butsudan and show the butsudan to the otosan, to the father, the deceased father, and say something like, look, father, look, otosan, Karma is visiting, and he brought you a box of cookies that you really enjoyed when you were alive. I'm really happy that she's here. We'll share these all together. And this is something that is quite natural to, treat the past, the deceased members of the family as if they were still alive and among the ones in the house. No, this is something that should always be kept in mind, and be really respectful towards this butsudan and this way of behaving. And I think it's very nice because it's it's actually a way of naturalizing death. No, I think death is part of life in Japan in a more natural way than in Western countries. In Western countries, sometimes we have real difficulties in dealing with death, right? And I think this is very nice in Japanese culture. Then also, here comes the fun part of visiting an onsen, right? Have you been to an onsen, any of you? Onsen is thermal bath. Have you been to a onsen?
Yeah, and Nippon Maru.
Oh yeah, the
Nippon
one in Nippon Maru, that's right. Very funny one with all the waves moving, no, while the ship was moving. That's right. Have you been to an onsen in Japan? Any of you? Well, I'm sure that those of you who are lucky enough to live in Japan go there all the time. We love it. At least I love it. I think it's one of the best experiences you can have when traveling to Japan. But there are certain rules that need to be kept in mind also when going to an onsen. First of all, do you know the difference between these different concepts that I wrote here? Ofuro, onsen, sento, and rotemburo. What's an ofuro? No? So the ofuro is the general word for a bath that can be, the image down here on the right, a family bath, a bath that you have at a regular home in Japan. And nowadays, ofuro in Japan are really modern. They can be like even programmed as to what time they want the water to be heated and all this. So it's very convenient. But this is something that is regularly used at home, okay? Onsen is a thermal bath, and in order for a premises to be considered onsen, they need to comply with certain rules of being, for example, being naturally heated up. So this is water that comes out of the mountains or of the sources, heated, really hot, naturally, in a natural way, and the human beings have not heated up artificially, okay? And onsen is very similar to rotemburo, but rotemburo means an onsen that is outdoors, okay? So the image up on the right would be rotemburo, and then onsen is the same idea, but inside. So it's not outside, it's not outdoors, but inside the premises. And then sento is a sort of little onsen, but it's artificially heated up in a building, inside a building. And this is usually where people would go to have a bath at the end of the day after work when they didn't have ofuro at home, or just, to relax in a more comfortable way, because sento is bigger than the ofuro that you have at home. And sento, there are sento all around Japan in several like neighborhoods and several areas, and people would just go there and talk about the neighborhood sometimes, and talk about things that were happening around the neighborhood. Yeah, Pablo, go ahead. I think you raised your hand.
Yes, because at the beginning I thought onsen was everything, on all kinds of bath, like what we had in the ship. But later on, I realized about the term sento. So as I understand, correct me if I am wrong, what we had in the ship was really a sento, not an onsen.
Yeah, it should be, right? I don't know if you agree, Japanese members, you can help out here. I think it should be considered a sento, the one we had on the ship, because of course it's not an onsen, like a naturally, it's not a thermal bath, no? So the term for onsen is thermal bath, meaning that it comes from a volcano source or a naturally heated source. So yeah, what we had on the ship, I think, was the center, right? Yeah, go ahead, Miyuki-san.
Sento sounds like, of course, bus, but we will pay for it. So in a bus in Nippon Maru, it's actually we don't pay every time. So just ofuro. It's
yeah, you could, okay.
Sen means money, actually. Then to means hot. So for example, in a town or downtown, it's we call it sento, not a natural onsen.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yes, that's right. So sento, I think usually has these you see this little noren, the curtains announcing the sento, And sometimes it has a U written, which means hot water, right? So yeah, then you pay, you don't pay much. I think it's like 2 or 3 euro to get in. And this is something that is really common in Japan, to just pay and go there and then leave. So yeah, that's interesting. What did we have on Nippon Maru? A sento or ofuro? Ofuro maybe, right? Miyuki-san, ofuro. Because you didn't pay for it every time. I like
Yeah,
that. I like,
We
yeah.
have a certain vocabulary, daiokujo, which means a grand bath.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
think that's, yeah, Nippomaru's ofuro is daiokujo, maybe.
Okay. That's something I should have written here too. Then, okay. Yeah, thank you so much. See, you have so many types of baths. It's amazing, right? It makes you just want to go to the bath, to the onsen all the time. So anyway, if you go to any of this, you should keep in mind that, of course, you have to go without a swimming suit or a bathing suit. You have to first wash yourself thoroughly before getting into the proper bath. And once you get into the bath, the big bath, this is always only in order for your body to relax and to get all the heat and relax the muscles. So you should never put any type of soap inside the baths. You should always do it outside the bath where you sit down. You should do it in the area prepared to do this kind of, cleaning yourself and washing, and it's really nice. It's a wonderful experience because the water is really, really hot. Sometimes it gets some time for us to get used to this temperature. It's a very high temperature, but it's very nice. It's a nice experience, especially if it's outdoors. It's a very nice experience. Any experiences in any kind of sento, onsen, ofuro, all this? The other day, one of my students in a classroom told me, I didn't know that, but he told me, did you know that if you get burned inside an ofuro or an onsen, the insurance, your travel insurance doesn't cover that? I had no idea. I didn't know that. So, but hopefully we won't get burned. So, and then when visiting a temple, you have to always try to behave the way that the people in Japan are visiting the temples. You need to first find out if it's a shrine or a temple. Usually the word shrine is used for jinja, for Shinto shrines, and then temple is used for Buddhist temples, right? And so the behavior when visiting these types of religious places are different. So for example, if you go to a Shinto jinja, first you need to clean yourself at a special place where you wash your hand first and then the other hand, and then you rinse your mouth, and then you're prepared to go and visit the kamisama, no? To see the gods that are inside that jinja. So when you go there, when you approach the main building in the jinja, what you need to do is you bow twice, then you clap twice, and then you bow again. And this is a way of showing respect towards the kamisama at the jinja. But then if you if you visit a Buddhist temple, what you do is you bow once, then you put your hands together without clapping, and then you bow again. So you need to really get used to this and to trying to find the difference between a Buddhist temple and then a jinja, a Shinto shrine. And one way of knowing this difference is to see if at the entrance of the temple there is a tori. If you see a tori, like the image down here on the left, if you see a red tori, that means that this is the entrance to a Shinto shrine. Okay, so what you should do is bow before before entering the tori, and then try to walk on the side of the tori, not through the center of the tori, because the center of the tori is kept for the kamisama. The kamisama, the gods, are the ones who will be walking there. So you walk on the side and then you visit the temple in the way that I explained before, okay? Okay, and just as a general idea, when you travel to Japan, finally, I just want to say, enjoy your time there, because you have this wonderful society of people who will try their best to make you feel comfortable and welcome you. and they are really nice people, and you'll be able to have a really enjoyable and nice experience in Japan. So make the most out of it. And as a summary of all this idea is this expression ichigo ichie. This is an expression usually used to in tea ceremonies. It's usually written in kakejiku at a tea ceremony session, because it means that every occasion is unique. Every time you meet with somebody is a unique experience that will not be repeated or similar to any other that you've had before, because the situation will be different. The ikebana chosen for that tea ceremony will be different. The kakejiku will be chosen especially for that occasion. The people you'll share that ceremony with will be different, and you will be different yourself because you'll be changing throughout the years, right? So every opportunity is an occasion that needs to be enjoyed as a unique experience. And I'll just finish my talk by saying, please enjoy your unique experience in Japan. And from now on, we can just start a debate or reflection or discussion on things that we've been talking about. What I'll do is I'll leave the bibliography that may be useful for you. I'll just leave it in the slide if you agree, if you want to have a look at this. And then we can, if Paloma and Amy, if that's okay with you, we can just, begin with the discussion if we have time. I have no idea how we're managing with time. Oh, it's late. I'm sorry if I took too long. Sorry about that. Thank you very much for listening to me. I have a arigatou gozaimashita here.
Thank you, Karma. I think you really enjoy talking about this, so that's why time doesn't
I do.
doesn't count for you.
Yes,
we can
sorry.
see that you really enjoy.
Thank you. Sorry for taking so much time.